Portia has terrible news for Liz about Sam's autopsy results, and Alexis is shocked by her daughter's will. Wednesday, November 20, 2024. Today on General Hospital, Portia gets Sam's autopsy report back. Alexis finds Sam's will and Lulu panics after Cyrus visits. Please note that if you purchase something by clicking on a link within this story, we may receive a small commission of the sale. On today's General Hospital, Lucky and Liz talk about Sam's service outside of Bobby's. He reflects on how he's behaved, how he hasn't stepped up, and that he doesn't want to give Aiden or Liz false hope. She tells him not to tiptoe around either of them, but make the decision and commit. First time for everything. Lucky starts stammering about what he's thinking, and Liz just bluntly asks him if he's thinking of going back to Africa. He is. He can help people there, at least. But when Lucky asks if he has Elizabeth's support, she spots Lucas inside and goes to check on him, leaving her ex staring after her. Inside, Lucas tells Liz and Lucky that he would have been a distraction. He could be the reason she's gone. He tells them about Danny and doesn't blame him at all for what he said, but it still hurts. He says he was having second thoughts about going to the funeral, though before Danny. Liz says they'll hopefully get answers soon once the autopsy report is back, but he can't blame himself in the meantime. Then he gets a call with Portia summoning him to her office. She's got the results. After he's left, they talk about how horrible they feel about Lucas. No one expected this to happen to Sam. She seemed to be fine. Brennan wanders in and casually greets Lucky. Over at her office, Alexis is furiously looking through her boxes to find Sam's will and refuses to leave or let Molly help her. Alexis says at the very least she knows one of Sam's wishes. She would be happy that Molly and Christina have come together. They then talk about the trial starting tomorrow and how horrible the timing is. Molly breaks the news that Rick's added her as a witness for Ava's defense, and Alexis flies off the handle, asking Molly to testify in defense of the woman who is the reason Molly lost her baby is cold-blooded. Molly says if she were defending Ava, she'd do the same. She insists she doesn't have a choice if Rick calls her to the stand, but Alexis says it could ruin the family and how dare Rick put her in this position. Molly says this is Rick's way of helping her let go and move forward. As Alexis snaps it doesn't have to be her to testify, she finds the will. After reading through in silence, she breaks the news that Drew is named as Scout and Danny's legal guardian. She explains that Sam wanted to ensure that her kids stayed together, but Alexis isn't sure she and Dante were even together when this was drafted. Plus, Jason was still dead. Molly, though, suggests that maybe Sam hadn't updated it on purpose. She could have had real concerns about Jason, and this is what she wanted. Alexis says they'll never know for sure if this is what she actually wanted now. They don't know if Jason will even want custody of Danny, but they know he wouldn't want Drew to have it. Yeah, no, that's not happening, Molly agrees. Danny puts flowers down on Sam's grave as Jason watches, then adds one to little Leela's grave. He asks Jason if he thinks Sam's at peace. Jason says she is. She missed baby Leela every day. He'd like to think they're both in heaven together. They talk about how much Sam loved all her kids and how important family was, and Danny opens up about hurting Uncle Lucas. Danny's the reason he wasn't at the funeral. He feels horrible about telling Lucas it was his fault and wants to take it all back. Sam loved Lucas. Jason comforts his son, saying he was hurt, angry, and just lost his mom. Danny admits he's just trying to make sense of his mom being gone, and Jason gently says there may not be one. Danny asks if his dad has tips about not taking his anger out on others, and Jason admits that's something he struggles with too. Is that what happened with you and Uncle Drew? He explains how he realized what happened, and Jason asks, has anyone ever told you you're too smart for your own good? Jason admits he got angry and lost control, but won't say why. And don't worry about him going to prison. because Drew isn't pressing charges. Danny tells him the fight may have been between them, but they aren't the only ones who got hurt. Dante gets home and takes in the emptiness before Christina walks downstairs with a box of Sam's things, wanting to help so Dante doesn't have to. She offers to go and he asks her to stay. Dante starts talking about all he and Sam were going to do when she got home. But now all those plans are for nothing. They had one day after proposing to think of their lives together, then she died. Christina counters that Sam talking about the engagement was the happiest Alexis had ever seen her, and Dante gave her that. He's slightly comforted, but wonders if Sam's dead because of me. If she saw a problem, she wanted to fix it. Just like she wanted to fix his and Rocco's pain over potentially losing Lulu. Christina tells him it was Sam's choice. That killed her, Dante counters. Fine, but it's not his fault. What happened isn't fair. Life isn't fair. She starts talking about Adela and Sam, then apologizes for making it about her. Dante shuts that down fast, saying her pain is as valid as anyone's. When he says he wishes Sam was more selfish, Christina points out that that would mean he'd have buried Lulu instead. He'd have never wanted Lulu's life at Sam's expense. Christina says he's allowed to be grateful Lulu is alive, and it's not dishonoring Sam at all. He knows deep down that it's not on him. Lulu massages her face as she comes to, then looks at her medical band. She slowly focuses in on the hospital room, then winces as she tries to move. She lifts her gown and removes the bandage, hyperventilating a little when she finds the surgery scar. She reaches for the nurse button, only to hear voices. The doctor's talking to Cyrus about her improvement, and he mentions he's the one who recommended this facility to Lulu. Lulu closes her eyes and thinks back to Cyrus confronting her before the coma, threateningly telling her it's in her best interest to make time for him, or he could make her life very difficult. He goes in and sits by her bedside as she feigns being unconscious. He's glad she's made progress and says he's going to take care of you, just like I promised. The doctor says he's going to inform the family of how much Lulu's improved, but Cyrus says he'd rather do it. He doesn't want to give the family false hope about Lulu waking up. They leave and a nurse checks on Lulu as she fakes being out. Once everyone's gone, she struggles to sit up, then stand. It doesn't work. She collapses onto the ground. Lucas gets to Portia's where she tells him no surgical error caused her death. Lucas did everything perfectly. When he asks what did, she shows him the toxicology report. He looks it over, surprised. Back at Bobby's, Lucky says they were in the middle of something, but Liz gets a text from Portia calling her in. Brennan takes her seat, suggesting a change of scenery could do Lucky good after all that's happened, and he can offer a purpose and a way to help people. Lucas runs into Liz as she gets to the hospital, but before he can tell her anything besides he's in the clear, Portia shows up and beckons Elizabeth into her office. Lucas looks uncomfortable as she leaves. In the show's final moments, Danny tells Jason that Scout saw her dad's face and none of the kids bought Drew's story. Scout's scared, and Jason says he never meant for that to happen. The kids should never suffer for their parents' choices. What happened with Drew won't happen again. He then tells Danny would be proud of him for challenging Jason to do better, and they hug. Alexis tells Molly that the kids need to stay together, and if Scout stays with Drew, that means Danny does. She'll go as far as she has to see Sam's wishes are honored. Dante asks when his little sister got so wise and says Sam would have been upset to miss that. He gets a notification on his phone about Ava's trial. They've both been called as a witness for the prosecution, and they both say they're going to do their part to take Ava down. As Brennan pushes Lucky for an answer, he gets a call from Lucas to inform him that Liz might be in trouble. She's in a meeting with Portia. In Portia's office, she tells Elizabeth that Sam died from a Digitalis overdose. Liz is shocked. That can't be right. She oversaw everything. Portia tells her they need to go over everything she and her team did. Are you suggesting I may be responsible for Sam's death? Portia says they can continue the conversation with a union rep on hand if Liz wants. In her room, Lulu struggles to get up, pulling herself back onto the bed. She massages her legs, panting and looking panicked.